And here we go.
There's the deluge. Here's ignition.
Roger, roll, Atlantic. Doubling up.
Did he just do a Kerbal?
Back to the moon and beyond.
Put that in the big bag, Jingle.
Back at home, we all have a lot of work to do, but from here, that sure looks like a perfect world.
Propulsion continues to be normal.
We did have an observation. 343 unfolds to go.
It's orange.
Water towers can fly!
Bingo! Right in the center.
Where's Jacqueline? There it is!
That was surreal.
That's not what we want to see.
No!
Oh my God.
Yikes, you bet. Sure. We don't need any more of these.
Good evening. You are taking a live look right now at Space Launch Complex 40 at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida, where SpaceX is getting ready to launch their first East Coast mission of the year. That is the Starlink 6-88 mission. I'm Sawyer Rosenstein. I will be your host for this evening's broadcast, and as always, I will not be alone. Joining me out in the field and on commentary today is D Wise. How's it going, D?
You know, it's been an interesting evening thus far, but it's going pretty well. There's a rocket on the pad. It is vertical. It is getting ready to launch. So it's always a good day when you're looking forward to a launch.
Exactly. And currently dodging rain right now is Max Evans, who will join us once the weather clears up a bit and he's able to get everything set up and out. So, yeah, in case you noticed, we've been pushing the stream time a bit as the weather has been less than favorable up to this point, to say the least. It's been raining, it's been wind warnings, it's been quite a bunch. D, how is the weather currently?
Well, it's raining here still. This is the third time I have set up cameras and I've had to take them down and put them back up because of that rain. So, at this exact moment, it's not looking perfect, but it should clear up here very, very shortly. And Max will have his great views from closer up than you're seeing here right now. And as far as the 45th Weather Squadron and their forecast for the mission, things improve throughout the window. So towards the very start of the window, it was a 70% probability of violation, but that goes down to 30% towards the end of the window, closer to 3:17 a.m. Their concerns are not actually the rain for their primary concerns. It's the cumulus cloud rule and the thick cloud layers rule. Those are the main things the 45th Weather Squadron was looking at, and there's some additional risk criteria from that upper level wind shear. So sort of the things that we've been seeing and dealing with tonight up to this point are the same sort of things that SpaceX is trying to avoid as they get closer and closer to this launch.
There we go. And yes, Jay Keegan bringing up that fancy looking graphic there, who is pushing the buttons, pulling the levers, and producing the stream this evening. Now, it may be a new year, but one thing hasn't changed. This is not your ordinary Starlink launch. And this one in particular, especially because that booster on the screen there looks pretty shiny. And that's because it is. That is booster 1101. Finally getting the 100 series of boosters out here on the East Coast after 1100 made its debut over on the West Coast. So, as we, of course, talk about its history of past flights, there are none. This is it. This is the booster's first foray into flight. Its history is that it was built at the SpaceX headquarters over in Hawthorne, California. They have a whole big factory floor there. They then test it over at McGregor, which we have seen this booster static fire on our McGregor Live 24/7 cameras. And then from McGregor, it went to Cape Canaveral, Florida. And there is a road that goes all the way from California to Florida, and that is Interstate 10, and that is its most frequent trajectory up to this point. I love this graphic. However, we do have the regular assets downrange with just read the instructions. The booster hopefully set to recover this booster on its first landing attempt, and Bob is the fairing recovery vessel downrange. Speaking of downrange for this particular mission, this is a southeasterly mission, which is what we've come to expect in the wintertime with these Starlink 6 whatever number missions. And you can see there the keep out zones and the hazard warning areas, showing that landing area for both the booster and about 100 kilometers downrange from that is where they scoop up those fairings. And tonight, for the 6-88 mission, we are expecting 29 of those Starlink V2 minis to be aboard on that southeasterly trajectory. So, as always, don't forget that you can ask us questions throughout the entirety of the broadcast. You can tag us at NASA Spaceflight or at NSF, and we will do our best to answer as many of your questions as we can throughout the broadcast tonight. And in case you're wondering what it looks like when they're deployed, well, there you go. I love how recently they added those light bars on the side so you can kind of see things better. But that is the deployment mechanism that we're used to. Fighting Falcon asking, is that a new camera location for Slick 40? Normally don't see that view for Starlink launches. D?
Yeah, so this time around, in part because of the weather, in part just to shake things up a bit, I went farther south. So this is actually a totally publicly accessible location. It's just one of the pull-offs you see along 528 or 520 maybe when it gets to here, but it's going into Cocoa Beach, and there are a bunch of people around. I've even got a second camera here, sort of just showing the cars lined up by the water to see it. So you'll see this in addition to, once the weather clears up enough, those up close cameras at the press site. But just trying to shake things up a bit. And so, from this perspective, of course, we don't have the same interference of the crew tower, uh, but we are quite a distance farther away.
Yeah, it's a kind of give and take with that. It is nice to have that different viewpoint there. As we always talk about, oh, you see the strong back. You don't really see the strong back because it's behind the crew access. Well, now you see the strong back. And of course, we will have our regular views up as the rain is apparently starting to slow down and thin out. And in fact, there is Z view from Max Evans over at the press site, the side that you are used to. And in a rare turn of events, you can actually read the word SpaceX on the side of the booster because it is so clean, having none of that extra soot on there from its re-entry trajectory. Now, under 50 minutes to go for today's launch. And again, this the second flight of SpaceX of the year and their first from the Space Coast. And what's interesting, I think, here, as we get to the numbers, by the way, real quick. First, 611th launch overall, as I mentioned, second of the year. Earth's second, because the first was the Cosmos SkyMed launch out of Vandenberg yesterday. This will be the 231st, hopefully, consecutive successful Falcon launch. 83rd orbital flight for the Falcon 9 family. And 299th from Slick 40. So hopefully in the coming week, we will see Slick 40's 300th launch for SpaceX. And of course, the 342nd for Starlink's 95th Group 6 mission. And it has been 214 successful landings consecutively. And it's interesting about that number because obviously, D, we are going to be hitting 300 probably the next week. But we're going to see the numbers really jump up this year, it seems like, for LC40, especially given the fact that we have some Falcon Heavy launches on the books this year, and Starship is a thing too.
Yeah, so the number of Falcon launches from 39A will decrease, and the number from 40 will significantly increase, and I'm sure from the West Coast as well, making up for that, so they can continue working on 39A, focusing on Falcon Heavy and focusing on that all-important development of the Starship pad there, which, I mean, it's so exciting. We should get Starship this year. It's exciting.
It really is. I mean, we've been seeing a lot of the work over on Space Coast Live, getting ready to hopefully start seeing those arms move. We've been seeing the cranes going like crazy over there. It's exciting to see. And yeah, last year, they were hoping to get the number to 165 plus 2. I won't say those numbers. They did end up at 165 launches, which again, their original goal was 170, and then they bumped it down to 165. So hopefully, we will see even more of those this year. And yeah, don't forget to keep an eye out on those live cameras, see all of that Starship progress at 39A. And of course, once we fly again, we'll see the progress going on over at 37. Slick 37 at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station side of things and see how they're doing on the other pad. Yana Andreeva, thank you for becoming a Pad Rat member. Lovely thanks to people here who were joining during the delay. Dan Prass, thank you for becoming a Pad Rat member. Larry Swan becoming a Pad Rat member. And Fluffy pointing out the second launch of 26 as the first launch happened on time from the West Coast, as one should. I mean, hi, Sawyer. Hey, no, it didn't launch on time, might I point out. That was supposed to launch in 2025. So, yeah, about that. It did get delayed. Let's see here. One thing that is interesting to note, and Matt Camper pointing this out, who's watching it tonight from Satellite Beach while on vacation, what was the reason for delay on launches from the Cape for the last couple of weeks? I mean, we had hit the longest drought between Falcon 9 launches at the Cape in quite a while since they had anomaly issues.
Yeah, I mean, it's been really quiet, and that's something we're not used to seeing. So any reasoning would be just total speculation on the exact cause of it. So as far as 39A, the reason we didn't get any of those, as we read in that tweet, would be that they're moving the focus Falcon Heavy and Starship for some time. And so maybe they just wanted to let their teams have a bit of a holiday break. Perhaps it was um perhaps it was related to new booster in some way. Like there's so many things that it could be involved with, but I mean, I wouldn't consider it concerning, and I'm sure teams would appreciate some break for the holidays to enjoy that time.
Yeah, and I think it's also safe to say it wasn't like, oh, the teams were doing absolutely nothing. They're still continuing to do booster inspections and work over at Hangar X. They also still have been doing work, as we've seen, as we pointed out, on the Starship Tower over there at 39A. So they've been keeping busy, and I'm sure there's been a lot of work over at Hawthorne and McGregor too. So I'm sure some people got a vacation, but you know, a break from launches at least gives that team time to recuperate after 165 of them in a calendar year. Let's see. Thomas, I'm not sure the answer to that one. That would be more like an Alex question. What was the previous success streak we're looking to break? Got to be around 340-ish. I mean, I'm trying to think because there was I'm trying to think. Was it CRS 7 was the or AMO 6, and then the first landing failure that they had? I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, but it's all just old brain.
Yeah, and then there's the second stage stuff with some of the Starlink missions, but
The ice, yeah. Interesting. So here's another good question. Because we talk about jellyfish, things like that. Tonight is, I believe, a full moon, or we're right around that full moon time frame. There's also a meteor shower that's set to peak tonight as well. Ninja Guy Dan saying, what conditions are best for a moon jelly? I might see it from a cruise ship I'm currently on near Miami.
well, like you said, you want a full moon. The brighter the moon, the better. And we were even getting some shadows from the moon earlier tonight before these clouds rolled in. So down by Miami, you might be well off if the skies are clear. I'm sure there's also something with the angle of the moon relative to the direction you're looking. I'm sure certain angles could be better, but the full moon is definitely what you're looking for. So definitely let us know what you see. If you get any photos, be sure to tag us on those socials because I would love to see what you're able to capture.
And I do want to interrupt you there for a moment. Appears that SpaceX has entered a hold on the countdown. So as much as we talk about the Wolf Moon howling at the moon, we're howling at SpaceX currently. Uh, we'll have to see what that new T0 is. The clock held at T minus 42 minutes and 44 seconds. Again, don't know what the reason is. I know there was the rain that was passing through, although that was kind of expected to dissipate. And as mentioned, the forecast set to improve as the window goes on. The window does go until 3:17 a.m. Eastern Time. So that would be another, what is that, 2 hours, 20 minutes from the current T0? So somewhere around there. Oh, Max Evans joining us. How's it going, Max?
Over my head now, and also that very wolf moon trying to peek out along with Jupiter right next to it. So there we go. Appears we have a new T0 Sawyer. What is it?
Yeah,
1:21 and 50.
1:21 a.m. and 50 seconds. So it looks like not too bad. It looks like, what is that, 14, 15-ish minutes? So we will get that updated on the clock, and of course we will continue counting down here. And Max, some people may miss the beginning of your conversation there. How's the weather looking over at the press site right now?
Yes. Sorry about that, everybody. All things considered, it is looking much better now. I am beginning to see a bit of sky over my head. That wolf moon is peeking out. The cloud layer is thinning. And of course, the radar, if the radar is to be believed, all of the rain is beginning to leave the area, and we should not have to worry about it for the rest of the morning. So, yes, things are looking better and better so far, and trending in the right direction, which lines up with the forecast from the 45th Weather Squadron as well.
Okay, that's what we want to hear. We want things to hopefully be improving. Of course, it's SpaceX, so we can only guess and assume based off of what we know. But in terms of the actual weather, there's, improving. There's no real concerns for wind. Most importantly, there's no concerns for lightning as well. So those are the ones that would really put a damper on your night, and not so much this time. And of course, they were doing that right as they were about to get into the exciting part of the countdown there, basically starting the process of getting ready for fueling and everything. So at that point, when they called the hold, that is when they do a poll for all of the team members if they are go or no go for propellant load. And that's usually about the 42-minute mark, and that hold was called at the 42-minute mark. So makes sense. As we go through the timeline there, if they do verify go for propellant load, that would happen at about the 38-minute mark. And then, of course, T-minus 35 minutes to go is when they start loading up those propellants on this brand new booster here. Stage 1 will get both the liquid oxygen, the LOX, and the RP1, the rocket propellant 1, which is that refined form of kerosene. Meanwhile, Stage 2 just starts with the slightly warmer RP1. That will continue till about the 20-minute, 20-second mark, which, of course, we call the best vent here. That's when they do the LOX chill down. Get those lines prepared for the supercooled liquid oxygen to run through them about 4 minutes later, and then that will take us all the way down to, hopefully, a fully fueled Falcon 9 and launch. So we will keep an eye out as we get to that next poll. Again, we don't get to hear it, unfortunately, but that should be about 10 to 12 minutes from now. Let's see here. Someone's asking 98 Central, why is SpaceX lowering the orbit of some Starlink satellites? Do we know if they've been doing that intentionally? If it's just kind of orbital decay, making room for more? Any ideas?
I believe we did get something of an update about that. I'm gonna take a look, but the best of my understanding is that they are lowering those orbits in order to be better maintainers of space long term, so that anything that would go wrong on a satellite potentially it would lead it on a natural decay path faster.
Yep, and that's the thing. Obviously the satellites are going to get older and decay on their own over time, and that's part of why these satellites are in the altitude that they are at. But is that they're honestly meant to burn up faster. So if something were to go wrong, they're not stranded up there for years and years. It's a couple years to a couple of months. And you can see there a tweet from Michael Nichols saying lowering the satellite results in condensing Starlink orbits and will increase space safety in several ways. As solar minimum approaches, that's the point where there's less solar flares to worry about. Atmospheric density decreases, which means the ballistic decay at any given time increases. So lowering will mean a greater than 80% chance reduction in ballistic decay time in solar minimum, or the 4+ years reduced to a few months. As we were just saying there, you really don't want them hanging up there too long if you don't have to. So once they get to that really dead point in their orbit, they'll just come back in. And oh no, what are they going to do to replace those? I guess keep launching 29 Starlink V2 mini satellites from Florida here, as well as over at Vandenberg. And so far, also worth noting here that they say they have only 2 dead satellites in the fleet of over 9,000 operational satellites. But as pointing out, if it does fail, the whole goal is to deorbit as quickly as possible. Because space junk is a real and serious problem, which the name space is getting more ironic as there is less and less space in space. Let's see here. I mean, I think we can answer this one. Official and saying, what do you think about the Artemis 2 launch? In case you hadn't noticed from the brand new intro, which if you missed it on the Flame Trench, we have our brand new NSF intro. It was kind of a moon theme to it, with the whole acquisition of signal screen with the moon, NSF rising from the moon, all the moon stuff in there, and Artemis. We're kind of all in on Artemis this year. I mean, Max, the excitement for Artemis, especially being so close, it's palpable.
And the crowd chanted, "Moon,
Moon,
moon."
moon,
I know.
moon.
Honestly, it's as I said in the Flame Trench, Artemis 2 as a whole kind of crept up on us. I mean, we've had the milestones of the core stage coming in. We saw the train that carried the SRB segments in on rail. And of course, we saw Orion coming in via our SEL cameras as well towards the VAB for stacking. It's all kind of crept up on us, but it's not like watching Starship, where if we see a certain bit of hardware or movement, we know we're 2 months away or 1 month away or less than a week away, just for example. In this case, the timeline is spanned out over literal years. And believe it or not, it's been just over 3 years since Artemis 1 launched as well, which is kind of crazy to think about because I can recall that like it was yesterday. But we should be, in theory, about 1 month away from the first launch attempt of Artemis 2 and its crew of 4 around a free return to trajectory around the moon and back. Yeah, it has crept up on us, but honestly, it feels like it's already here, and the whole team as well. I think I can speak for everyone else that we are incredibly excited, and we are making sure that we have everything ready to bring you guys the best possible coverage as well. So, yeah, it kind of crept up on us, but we are certainly ready and very very happy for it.
Absolutely. Expect a lot of Artemis coverage for rollouts, for testing, and of course, we are going all in on the launch itself. Of course, your Florida Space Coast team will be down there in addition to some more NSF people. We're going to have the full Monty of it. So, this will be your go to place, hopefully, for Artemis 2 launch coverage. And of course, we'll be ready for it. We'll all be out there. It's going to be exciting. Mr. Fluffy, by the way, saying, Snip, you said the thing. So proud, Mr. Sawyer. I don't know what I said, but okay. I said Vandenberg launches stuff. That is true. Let's see here. Here is a question from Arturo asking, how old is the booster? And this is a fun one. For those who are just kind of tuning in and figuring things out, this is booster 1101-1. So, how old is it? Brand spanking new. It has not flown yet. This will be its first flight. So it's going to be exciting time to see a clean booster. It is going to make it a little trickier once they actually start propellant load, though, because normally we use that soot as a kind of backdrop to basically say, oh, they've started fueling. It makes it a lot more obvious when, you've got the white frost line going up on a white booster. It's a little trickier. Let's see. Johan asking, by the way, when do we expect rollout, and will you cover it for Artemis 2? I believe NASA said in the coming weeks here, so obviously in January, but I think it's within the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's reasonable to expect at this point somewhere in the realm of like the 13th to the 18th, somewhere in there, as that lines up with the roughly 2-week period that they have stated. So, and obviously following that, they still have to go through a full wet dress rehearsal, which is really what will determine the path forward to launch, whether or not they get it on the first try, and are able to proceed towards an early February launch window. So, in the next couple of weeks, probably, assuming all goes well, and you bet we are planning on uncovering that as much as we possibly can. All of the cameras are going to be out for that one, live or not. I know we are planning on having a bunch of feeds out for the live stream. So, yes, we are planning on going to. We are planning on having that streamed full stop.
Absolutely. I plan to join you guys up at the Cape for that one, and we'll all go through that rollout. It's an exciting time because Orange Rocket good, Orange Rocket big, very big. So it's one of those where it's kind of deceptive. Of course, it's large, but it's zoomed into a screen. When you see it in person and you drive next to it, it is a behemoth.
Well,
It's yeah.
It's also it's the rocket itself, Sawyer, but also I do have to say it is also the fact that it is mated to the mobile launcher that it is sitting on, both with the platform and with the tower right next to it. It's both the rocket and the mobile launcher together. They are one big unit, and just like back with the space shuttle and the Saturn V, they are carried via a crawler transporter from High Bay 3 out to Launch Complex 39B, just like in the old days. It does move very slow, I think, with the vehicles on top of it. It moves at a top speed of, I think, 0.75 miles an hour, I think was the quote from one of the PAOs over here, and also people who work on the crawler. But without any payload on it, I think it can do almost 2, which is very, very fast considering how big that vehicle really is. It's gargantuan, guys, genuinely. And when I think Kevin was around when I think Doss, myself, and also I think Lon was there as well when we were out getting some footage of the crawler over here. I think it was about 2 or 3 years ago now, and we got sprayed by the water trucks. It was quite fun. But these vehicles are huge, and the fact that they can move so quickly for how big they are is remarkable. But at 0.75 miles an hour, you think it would take forever to get moving, and while it takes about maybe 6 to 8 hours, depending on what issues may come up with either the vehicle or the ground, I guess, at that point, because it has to go across the Alabama River rocks to make sure that the weight is put through all of the actual pads on the actual tracks on the actual crawler itself evenly. But to get to where we are probably going to be watching from, it'll take about maybe an hour, hour and a half, if that. But once it's at you and it comes past you, it becomes the fastest 0.75 miles an hour in the world. And I can say that from experience from Artemis 1. It was like it was in front of you, and then before you know it, it's past you and moving away fast. So, yes, very exciting times coming up. I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, you think you have a lot of time to snap photos, and then by the time you do it, you're like, oh, it's already past me a little bit.
Yeah, seriously. It's not quite like watching hardware move in Starbase, like with boosters and ships. It's not quite that fast.
Definitely not.
But yeah, definitely not. But it still moves pretty fast for what it is.
And Kevin Michael Reed reminding us in the back channel that the crawler is huge and the water truck sprays big water. Yeah, Dawson Kevin may have gotten absolutely drenched one day that our Space Coast Live cameras actually caught while they were out filming something. So, yes, I'm calling you out, Kevin. It's still one of the funniest pieces of video I've seen.
That was a fun day.
Oh man, it's again, it's going to be exciting to see all of that roll out, and she's a gorgeously photographed rocket. I'll say that she takes pretty pictures. Let's see here. Hop Hayes coming in with the $2 super chat, also asking, what are the Falcon Heavy launches this year? Saying, hey, from Indy. As we were talking about earlier, Falcon Heavy set to be one of the main ones flying from 39A. Hopefully, of course, we will see some Cape Starship action, but as things slow down a little bit with the Falcon side of things from 39A, we're expecting a bunch more of the Falcon Heavy flights. Hopefully, that will include the Griffin Mission 1. So we'll have the Griffin lander. That one is part of the Commercial Lunar Payload Services program. So that is the one that was originally going to have Viper on it, but replaced with a block of concrete, essentially. But that was Griffin. And then, of course, the Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope, also set to launch towards the end of the year on Falcon Heavy. That thing is going to be absolutely spectacular. It's a wide field infrared survey telescope. And maybe if we're lucky, we get Astrobotics Lunar Mission 3 this year as well.
It would be so nice to have 3 Falcon Heavies this year because we haven't had one since the day after Starship Flight 5 back in October of 24, and that was the launch of Europa Clipper. And that wasn't even in RTLS because of where the payload had to go and its weight. They had to expend all 3 cores. And we haven't had a full RTLS Falcon Heavy since the GOES U mission back in June of 24 as well. And obviously we had no missions from Falcon Heavy last year as well. So I think we are due for some Falcon Heavy, but because of Starship coming online, hopefully soon for commercial payloads, hopefully in the next a couple of years, Falcon Heavy may not be long for this world beyond maybe some occasional Space Force payloads, and it's very long extended payload fairing as well, which we have seen over at Select 40 at times. With some, I think we thought it was doing some acoustic testing as well. So it may not be long for this world. So any launch of Falcon Heavy is to be cherished.
That was also,
hang
it's
on.
wild.
Sorry, we have a hold in the count. Sorry to interrupt you.
Oh no.
All
yes.
right.
While we wait for the new time, sorry, D, go ahead.
Oh, you're all good. Thank you for the immediate update there. We get those the updates quite fast.
Yes.
So I was just saying, like, Max and I weren't even there for that one. We were out at Flight 5, so we haven't seen a Falcon Heavy since GOES U.
Which is kind of scary and sad.
I can't believe it's been that long when you put it in Starship terms.
Yeah, I know, honestly.
That is unbelievable. But yeah, so that will be exciting. I can't believe GOES U was the last one. I was over on the Space Force side for the landings on that one. That was a spectacular, beautiful mission. Although my cell signal didn't want to work great, but that's a whole nother story for that launch. And it looks like they are pushing now to 1:48 a.m. Eastern Time and 10 seconds. So the trend continues, and as we've pointed out in the past, that is right around the time we would expect it to be, because that is when they do the their kind of go-no-go poll for propellant load. And it seems like they had the no-go there for propellant load. But as mentioned, the window tonight goes until 3:17 a.m. Eastern Time. So they have plenty of time to keep pushing in 15, 20-minute increments and aggravate us. One thing that doesn't aggravate me is the amazing support that we get, including Goliath 810 with a $20 tip at tips.nasaspaceflight.com. Thank you for going the extra effort to do that and help support us more directly. Saying, looking forward to more launches in the new year. Thank you. And yeah, we all are. I mean, we had our Flame Trench on Friday, which if you haven't watched, it was really good, where we did our predictions at least for the upcoming year. And most of us believe that we will have at least 365 or more launches this year, except EJ, who thinks it's close to it, but not exactly 365. So Regardless, that's still a crazy amount of launches. We had what, 320 to 330 ish, depending on how you count last year.
Yep.
So it's going to be exciting. Red Stick asking, is there a chance it will delay again if there's 10 minutes left? At that point, I think it's safe to say it wouldn't. And it's kind of worth going over the fact that, yes, they have a window, but kind of discussing how that windows work and also why at that point they wouldn't be able to fuel. So who wants to take that one? Who wants to take the whole Falcon 9 fast load?
I can take that. So essentially, what SpaceX likes to do with Falcon 9, or has to do with Falcon 9, is load it as late as they possibly can. It's what they call a load and go fueling procedure. And the reason why they do that is because they use super chilled, super cold cryogenic propellants on both stages. And they use super chilled RP1 and super chilled liquid oxygen on the first stage. And then also they use, I think it's super chilled oxygen on the second stage, but I can't remember. But the point is, once you have propellants chilled down to the points that they are a lot more dense, and because they are a lot more dense, they compress, and because they're compressed, you can fit a lot more fuel in the same size fuel tank, thus getting more performance out of your rocket. The catch there is the propellants are constantly wanting to warm up, and when they want to warm up, they expand and they off gas, and that's obviously not good for a rocket. For one, that does not have any insulation on it, minus the actual tank surface, which is not really a good insulator at all. But the propellant has to go somewhere if it's trying to expand. So they're in a constant battle of trying to keep both props, both the LOX and the RP1 at their desired temperatures to make sure Falcon 9 has enough propellant in it to do what it wants to do, whether it's in RTLS or return to launch site or sending the booster out to a drone ship out in the ocean, or just trying to expend the core itself out into the Atlantic, which we have seen before. And so, because of that, they have to load at the last moment possible to reduce the amount of boil off and propellant temperature rising throughout the count. And if they do end up going into propellant load and they come across some other nasty weather, whether there was a lightning strike within a radius that is deemed unfavorable, or they see some weather coming, or they come across some issue with a vehicle and or ground system, they do not have the time or the capability to recycle all the systems on board the vehicle and the ground in time in the 4-hour window that they normally give the Starlink missions. So once they begin prop load, they are then committed to whatever T0 they were targeting at that time. So in this case, if they, oh gosh, what is it again? I haven't checked. If 1:48. Okay. So if they are at 1:48 a.m. and they begin prop load at T minus 38 minutes, so that would be 1:08. Or I'm sorry, that's 40 minutes. I guess 1 hour and 10 minutes, or 1:10 a.m. If they begin prop load at that point and they have to abort for whatever reason, they do not have the ability, and then they would be standing down for the rest of the night, despite the fact that they have about an hour and a half left in their launch window. So that is a very long-winded answer why, and it's because the propellants are chilled so cold, and it's all about temperature management once they begin prop load.
Yeah, it's a whole complicated process, but obviously SpaceX at this point has it down to a T. So and it's tend to work in their favor more than it hasn't. Really quickly here, let me thank some people as well. Again, Ryan98 Central also using tips.nasaspaceflight.com with the $20 tip. Thank you so much. Saying my absolute appreciation to Max and D out in the field this morning. Sawyer J and KMR, thank you for all you do too. I appreciate that. Thank you. Always good to see your name, 98 Central. And Fluffy coming in with a $20 super chat with a ridiculous question. But would NSF try to get cameras closer to Slick 40? I realize that would mean getting some sort of agreement with the government, which would be a miracle of sorts, just something I've always wondered. There are strict places where we can and cannot place cameras. And there are certain things that we can and cannot show. So, of course, we work with the U.S. Space Force to provide views for the benefit of everybody. Obviously, for anything that's a public view, like where D is currently, you can see there, it's not an issue. To get access to on the Space Force base is really not plausible, in my opinion. So, of course, we provide the closest views that we can. When the Space Force is kind enough to offer viewing for us on site, we always take that option, and that's why you'll sometimes see us with those closer up views, like we had for the final RTLS at LZ2 at the end of the year. So, lots of things that go into play with that. So, it's very tricky. And as SpaceX tries to figure out their launch T0 here, we are going to take a short break. If they proceed with that propellant load, we will, of course, come back and rejoin you. So stay tuned. We will update you if they do proceed with the count, and if they do hold again, we will update you on that as well. In the meantime, DJ JK today, Jay Keegan joining in on the producing again. Let's listen to those tunes, and we will rejoin you all shortly. Welcome back, everybody. Surprise, we're back in case you were expecting the music to continue. You have a tab open with the Starlink 6-88 launch, and this is going to be a launch from Space Launch Complex 40 at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. You can see it there on your screen. This, another 29 Starlink V2 mini satellites set to launch into orbit. And at this point, it appears we've made it further than we have so far in the countdown, as we are now ticking down to about 37 minutes, which means that go-no-go poll for propellant load has likely completed, and at T-minus 35 minutes is when they should start loading up the rocket that you see on your screen. And as always, this is not your ordinary Starlink mission. You can see there, making it one step on the timeline, already ticked off, getting closer to the loading of Stage 1 and Stage 2 RP1, Rocket Propellant 1. That's the refined kerosene that they use, and the Stage 1 LOX, or liquid oxygen load. So for those kind of just tuning in or waiting for the pause, let me reintroduce everyone who's with me. I am Sawyer Rosenstein. I am joined in the field by Max Evans from the press site. How's it going, Max?
Good morning, everybody. It is going all right so far. Starlink is pushing it into the window, but that isn't anything that we are not used to by this point. But weather has taken a turn for the better, and we are hoping to get Falcon 9 off the ground with the current T0.
And providing us a different view tonight from the field, also on commentary, is D Wise. How's it going, D?
It is going really well. You know, weather has been clearing up throughout the night. Things are looking good, and soon we should be seeing a rocket launch. So it's a good day.
Any day with a rocket launch is a good day. And Jay Keegan is the one pushing the buttons, pulling the levers for us today. So, as I point out, this is not your ordinary Starlink launch. You're used to hearing me say that. That's a carryover from 25 into 26. But with it being a new year, we actually have a new booster. The reason that the Falcon 9 on your screen looks so bright and shiny and clean is because it has not flown before. This is B1101-1, the second of the 100 series. The first of the 100 series launched out of Vandenberg. And I love the booster history for this one, where it was manufactured out at the SpaceX headquarters over in Hawthorne, California, before being trucked over to McGregor, Texas, where they did static fire testing. They then sent it on its way over to its current location at Cape Canaveral in Florida. And all of that is done by truck. So it is very possible, if you've seen a very long cylindrical black tight wrapped cylinder going along I-10, you may have passed a Falcon 9 booster. It is kind of surreal when you look and go, oh wait, that is one. But yes, most frequent trajectory is I-10, although tonight's trajectory is towards the southeast, with just read the instructions located downrange to hopefully have a booster landed on top of it. The first landing for B1101, and Bob is downrange to pick up the fairing halves once those separate. So, Max, for trajectory-wise tonight, where should people be looking?
Well, the rocket is heading southeast tonight. So I think your best viewing chances are if you are south of the launch pad. So anywhere in Cape Canaveral, going down the coast to Cocoa Beach, Satellite Beach, and even going all the way down to maybe Fort. I cannot say it
Lauderdale?
tonight. Good Lord. Yes, thank you. I cannot say it tonight. Even not down to Miami if the skies are playing it nice, like they are now, because we are seeing plenty of clear sky over our heads. But at that point, the rocket will be flying essentially directly, like right in front of you as it heads downrange toward the Bahamas. So that is, if you are south of the launch pad tonight, you will have the best view there. That is not to say that if you are north of the launch pad that you will have a bad view, but the rocket will be flying away from you, so you will see a lot less of the flight path and the trajectory, unfortunately. So best to be south of the launch pad tonight. But also, I think if you are in, say, a Tampa or Cape Coral, or even going all the way down the Gulf Coast of Florida, if you are looking east, you should also have a somewhat decent view of it. I haven't actually watched a launch from that far away before, but I have seen pictures posted, and they have been seen so long as, of course, the skies are behaving. So Keep your eyes peeled, especially if you are south of the launch pad tonight.
And we will keep our eyes peeled on the screen right now as we wait to try and see frost forming. It takes a couple minutes, and it makes it even more difficult with a clean booster because normally we have that kind of sooty, dark background as a way to differentiate between the white frost line. So a white frost line on a very, very clean booster can be a little bit trickier, but of course we will be watching very closely on Frostwatch. Chat, we want you on Frostwatch as well. If you see it, say it in chat. Here's an interesting question. Ninja Guy Dan asking how close you have to be to the booster to see the landing burn. Obviously, when we showed the trajectory, you kind of saw the keep out zone area of where that landing is going to be. Are people seeing frost?
Frost, I see vapor on the very bottom of the LOX tank there. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, it's really only can see it because of the atmosphere, not as much on the booster itself, but the that kind of vapor there makes it very easy. But they're asking how close you have to be to see the booster landing burn. I know we've talked before about the entry burn, and I think it's worth noting, D, that more people can actually see the entry burn.
Yeah, the entry burn, you are far more likely to see because of course that happens much farther up in the atmosphere when you get to the landing burn, especially recently and with Falcon 9's method for the landing burn. It feels very last minute, and it's actually really close to the landing pad when it ignites its engine. So unless you are, I'd say extraordinarily close, you're unlikely to see it. You're really only going to when we have the RTLS missions, or if you happen to be. I mean, I don't even know if from the outside of the hazard area on a cruise ship or something, if you'd be able to see the landing burn, perhaps, but you'd have to be close.
Yeah, and for the entry burn, it's usually visible if you're right on the coastline. So the fewer obstructions that you have in your way, the fewer trees, the fewer houses, things like that, because it is relatively low on the horizon. But if you have a clear shot of the horizon there, it is very easy to catch the entry burn as well. And that's not something just from the Cape. You can see that all the way down south. I have seen it from as far south as Broward County, Fort Lauderdale area. And clear as day, you could see that entry burn. You mentioned also the other time being with RTLS missions, and a couple of questions about RTLS. Tater Mail asking, hasn't the lease ended at the landing zones at the Cape? What are the new landing zones for future RTLS missions? Max, we will see RTLSs this year. It's just where?
Yes, so RTLS missions are not going away, but the LZ1 and LZ2 landing pads, the leases have expired and they have gone to separate aerospace companies. So, in order to change and adapt with the new regulations set forth from the Space Force, which is that any rocket that is to be recovered on land must be brought back to the exact same launch complex that it launched from. So, SpaceX is currently in the process of finishing up a new landing pad over at Slick 40 at the moment to support RTLS missions from Slick 40. It is a little unclear what SpaceX is going to do over at LC-39A. I think ideally what we would like to see is either one big landing pad over there, big enough to support two Falcon Heavy sidecores at once, or two separate smaller pads to support the very same boosters. So SpaceX will be building more landing pads here as well, whether it be one more at Pad A or two. We're not quite sure yet. We have not seen any land clearing, at least as of our last flyover. But the landing pad over at 40 is nearly complete. It is making a lot of good progress, and it kind of has to be done because the next RTLS mission on the docket is the Crew 12 mission. Crew 12 mission launching in the second week of February. Currently, I believe it is February 12th. I believe is the current net, or no earlier than date. So, and of course, with crew missions, the booster always comes home unless they have some sort of issue, unfortunately. But it will be coming back to Slick 40, and that will be the very first RTLS mission back to Slick 40. So that means, unfortunately, if you are on the beach somewhere south of the port or in Cape Canaveral, Your views of the booster coming into LZ1 and or 2 will not be as great as they used to be, but good news for us or for anyone viewing from the Cape side, RTLS trajectories will be even better because not only are you closer to the launch pad, but you are also that much closer to the landing zone as well. Like for us here at the press site, RTLS missions are going to be a treat because we will have a direct view of the booster the entire way, of course, weather pending. Also, if we have a viewing opportunity on the Cape side, where we can get a lot closer to the launch pad sometimes, we can get an even better view from there as well. So boosters are going to be coming back both to Slick 40 and LC39A in the future.
That will be exciting once we see the 39A ones built. In the flyovers, we have seen major progress on the one at Slick 40. So it will be exciting to finally see a true launch and return to launch site. I guess the question is, what is the names going to be for those LZs? Because the one out at Vandenberg is LZ4. They skipped 3 because that one is on pad 4. That's pad 4 west is LZ4. I wonder if this will be LZ41 and then LZ39A and AB.
You mean 40, Sawyer? Not 41?
40, sorry. Yeah, wrong launch provider. One of them is a little further ahead on reusability. But yeah, that's what I meant. LZ40, I guess the other one, LZ39. But then it becomes, is it LZ39A1, A2, or AB?
I mean, if it's one big pad, it could just be LZ39A and not LC39A, but not sure yet. We'll have to wait and find out what they end up doing over there.
The confusion continues on SpaceX numbering.
I think they should really do like one slightly north of another, and so they can be like, yes, LZ39A north.
Oh, jeez.
Such a mouthful.
I mean, that would be AN, I guess. But then if there's two of them anyway, that's a whole nother argument. But Gabriel GG wanting along those lines, are the double drone ship booster landings still available for Falcon Heavy in case the LC-39A landing zones aren't ready?
I mean, theoretically, if they really wanted to try and bring the boosters back for a payload that was super taxing on the amount of propellant on board. The only downside to that is SpaceX only has 2 drone ships available for Florida operations. So, with how often they like to launch Starlink missions nowadays, usually every 2 to 4 days on average, they would need to stand down for upwards of at least a week to support that singular Falcon Heavy mission. And that's assuming they are able to land both boosters on their separate drone ships. So, yes, in theory, but ideally, bringing both side cores back to land will save a lot of time and resources for the operations needed. So, yeah, in theory, but not ideally.
Yeah, it's like we've always talked about, oh, well, maybe they'll actually try and recover the center core now, especially since we've, for the first time ever, seen a center
Yeah.
core fly as a single stick Falcon 9, which also we never thought would happen. So, I mean, it's a possibility, but it seems like with the cadence that SpaceX has picked up to at this point, with 165 launches last year and likely more expected this year, those drone ships are going to be crucial. Let's see here. Let me really quickly thank 9/8 Central, who during the commentary break gifted a Red Team membership. Appreciate that very, very much. 9/8 Central also asking, are the grid fins on Falcon 9 hydraulically or electrically controlled?
Hydraulically. So they use a singular pump inside the interstage that I almost said fuels that helps to push hydraulic fluid into separate mechanisms for each separate grid fin. So that is how they are able to retract and fold in and fold out, and also how they are able to rotate and help Falcon 9's orientation and flight into the atmosphere as the air gets thicker. So it's unlike Super Heavy, where those grid fins are actuated by actual electric motors. So very, very good question there, because both grid fins are operated quite differently. And also, they are made of titanium on Falcon 9. And I think they are still the single largest piece of titanium currently manufactured in the world for any single use. And I believe Super Heavies are still stainless steel or a steel alloy of sorts. I could be wrong there. Somebody fact check me on that. But
Yeah,
at least in terms of, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say my understanding is it's Falcon 9's grid fins are made from a singular piece of titanium and then trimmed down. So
Yes.
it's still the largest from my understanding.
Yes, but they are controlled via hydraulics on Falcon.
Yes, correct. And River Dave Kenny asking along those same lines, D, are there any improvements on these newer boosters? Again, this one being its first ever flight, 1101. Or has the design kind of been locked in for Falcon 9 Block 5?
Well, when they started flying crew, they had something of a lock on design. They weren't going to start implementing these major changes. But with that said, there have been some ways that they've optimized between uh, the actual landing and improvement of leg structures and that sort of thing. And of course, also we've seen it with trajectories, especially for the return. So they've been able to do RTLS missions where they weren't previously when carrying the Dragon 2. But as far as any more recent changes to the boosters, I am not sure.
I mean, over time, they've kind of developed and refined it a little bit. One of the earlier ones they learned, unfortunately, the hard way, is that they need a better way to balance Falcon 9 once it lands on the drone ship and not have it tip over, especially in high waves. So that was one of the improvements that they made, although it feels like that was a couple of years ago at this point. So we learn of these little tiny bits and tweaks that they do, but not really a huge big redesign. It seems like Block 5 is the Block 5 that we've known and loved, with maybe Block 5 version 0.3.8.1 alpha. I don't know. But yeah, Falcon 9 is pretty reliable as is. They don't want to mess with it too much. If you got something that works, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? So that's kind of where they're at with Falcon 9. Could there be small things that we don't know about? Yeah. But we'll see. And again, you get the new booster, you get most likely those brand new shiny engines underneath. It will be exciting to see this one fly and see how far it gets, how many flights it gets into the fleet. Of course, also coming up for this booster is its first time, at least here in Florida, experiencing the T-minus 20-minute, 20-second vent. And right on time, there it is, indicating that we are on time for today's launch. Max, why do we have the 20-minute, 20-second vent?
So essentially, what we are seeing now is the excess now GOX or gaseous oxygen, as SpaceX is beginning to flow with liquid oxygen through the actual propellant lines inside of the transporter erector in order to thermally condition them down to their needed cryogenic temperatures. Because the last thing you want to have happen is flow a super cold propellant or fluid through any bit of plumbing or material that is not either at or very near the same temperatures, because then the actual fluid can turn into a gas rather quickly and then expand and then cause either cracking or just full on breaking the actual material, and causing a headache and bad day for a bunch of people. So you obviously don't want that. So you want to make sure that all of the material that is going to be coming in contact with said super cold propellant or fluid is at the same temperature. So that is what we are seeing now. And it also serves as a great indicator as to the weather conditions here locally at the launch pad. And as you can see, that vapor cloud is hanging around for a long time, which means it is very humid, and also it is flowing to the left of the rocket. So there is a bit of a northern breeze coming from the south, there's wind coming from the south. I'll just say it like that. So that is where that a cloud is being pushed, and that is a great visual indicator as to what is happening there. But that is what you are seeing. That is why you are seeing it, and that is why it is so necessary. This will continue up until about T-minus 16 and a half minutes, and when this cloud ceases, that will be our visual indicator that stage 2 liquid oxygen load is underway.
And that is what we like to hear and what we like to see, that all of this is indeed underway. And Arturo asking, by the way, what kind of gas does the booster use? In terms of the propellants, as we talked about, there is the liquid oxygen, and the actual part that's the ignity bit, not just the oxidizer bit, is RP1 called Rocket Propellant 1. It is a type of kerosene, but it is super extra refined. Get rid of any excess particles, things like that. Make it as pure as possible so that it burns nice and clean. And in terms of actual gases, though, they do use some gas inside the vehicle. In particular, we see it a lot when they are changing the attitude of the vehicle with those cold gas jet thrusters. They use gas, right?
Yes, they use very cold, oh my god, I can't say it.
Nitrogen.
Yes, thank you so your good lord. Speech is hard tonight. And so they use that, and that is what you see the big puffs of gas coming out from both the booster and also the fairings as well, because the fairings have to make sure that they are oriented properly for atmospheric re-entry. So whenever you see a puff coming from either the interstage or the fairings, that is what that is. But they also have little COPVs, or cryogenic composite overwrap pressure vessels, staged inside both the first stage and the second stage to backfill both propellant tanks with gas, to prevent a vacuum of sorts and make sure that pressures are where they should be on both sides. So both of those are also used on Falcon 9, but also, of course, in a very limited capacity compared to either LOX or RP1.
Yeah, the gas, if you're thinking of like the propellant, the petrol, if you want to say it, versus gas, depending on where you are, is basically the RP1, and the actual gases inside it is mainly that nitrogen there.
I think RP1 is actually more closely resembled by diesel and not gasoline, which is also kind of bizarre.
Yeah, it tends to burn dirty, as you can see with all the soot that ends up on
Yep.
Falcon 9 over the course of the flights. But it's a clean dirty, I guess, because it's the refined kerosene.
A clean dirty. Such an oxymoron.
It is very much an oxymoron spoken by an oxymoron. Anyway,
Wow.
let's see. Bookworm's asking, is SpaceX constantly manufacturing new Falcon 9 boosters, or do they just make another one when they need it? I mean, they really ramped up production early on, and after a while, it's kind of like, well, are they going to keep making more? Seems like it's slowed down a little bit, at least from what we've seen over at McGregor Live.
Yeah, it definitely seems like they have slowed down on the first stage production, but with that said, they've certainly ramped up the second stage production because these boosters are getting reused more than ever, with more launches than ever. And so with every launch, they need to have a new second stage made for it. So they I don't know internally whether they actually sort of just like start one, or if stuff's in production more consistently but just at a slower pace. I'm not sure on that regard, but the stage 2 production is very constant.
Yeah, they have to, given that that part is not reusable. So we see a lot of that, again, being tested over at McGregor. And it's funny when you see them kind of going with basically no nozzle out there for the testing. And then it's a matter of which nozzle will we see? Will it be the normal sized Merlin vacuum engine nozzle? Or will it be, as we call it here, the stubby, the shorter version of the Merlin vacuum engine nozzle? And thankfully, I'm happy to report that we have primarily seen the regular, good old fashioned, traditional, normal Merlin vacuum engine bell for most missions, and including all of these Starlink ones because they need as much of that performance boost as they can to get all 29 of these satellites into their orbit. So that is why we typically see the regular sized engine for all the Starlink missions, and also why we tend to see them more as drone ship landings rather than RTLS. Because I know, Max, there was a while where we thought, oh, yeah, in 2025, they'd start doing RTLS Starlink missions, but that never really happened.
No, and same with the actual landing zone area in the Bahamas, where where the Bahamian government would allow a drone ship in their waters to support Falcon 9 first stage landings there, which we have only seen one time and not since. So very unique opportunities there, but if they want to increase their launch cadence that much more and save the time of the drone ships coming out or going out and coming back, which usually takes about a week round trip if all goes well, they could just put less Starlink satellites on Falcon 9 and bring the booster back to Slick 40 for a quicker turnaround time for both, thus increasing the launch cadence. That is an option. But of course, they want to maximize the amount of satellites that Falcon 9 can carry into orbit right now. I don't think Slick 40 is currently in a state where it can support around a 24-hour turnaround, which is what SpaceX would need to fill in their current launch rate and satellite supply to low Earth orbit with these Starlink V2 minis. So uh, we may see it soon. That could be an option that they play, but that is, of course, completely. That's just speculative at that point. I'm not sure they actually will, but that is an option. So they could, but they just are choosing not to. But it's also worth noting that these Starlink missions are among the heaviest payloads that Falcon 9 carries, and that is why they are often willing to push the envelope and see what Falcon 9 can really do, because it's their own payload. There isn't a customer satellite on board, so the risk is as small as it can be when it comes to parties involved. So that's why, essentially. We could see them soon, but we also could not. I don't know. We'll have to wait and find out.
Especially with the landing zone being built inside Slick 40 now.
Yep.
I wouldn't put it past SpaceX to try and land one back at the LZ and then roll it out a day or two later for the next launch. Just try and get it landed, get it inside the HIF, and roll it back out again a couple days later. And in terms of those stubby nozzles, you're a stubby nozzle fan, right?
Yeah, I was actually going to say it has really been a while since we have seen the stubby nozzle launch. I don't remember which the last mission was, but it has been quite some time since we've actually seen one fly, and there are a number of benefits that they have in terms of the like machining time and the amount of material used. So even if you don't love the look of the sort of shorter nozzle, they have their benefits and trade-offs. So for missions where they don't require quite as much performance from the second stage, they can save the actual time in production. They can save that material, which would otherwise be extended, and sacrifice the little bit of performance and still get the satellite where it needs to be.
And everyone's asking why. Why does it seem like they never use stubby nozzles anymore? Is it because they realize that they're actually ugly?
Rude.
No, I mean, it could be for a number of reasons. I wouldn't be surprised if they have opted to simplify production in a different direction. So by simplifying it to, no, we're just always making this version of the second stage. And in those scenarios, they don't necessarily have to worry if a second stage is initially destined for one payload, but then maybe it makes sense later in to swap it out for a different payload. They don't have to worry about it being a stubby nozzle or not a stubby nozzle. So it could simplify things in that way. But who knows? Perhaps we'll see it fly again.
Maybe we will. Here's the thing. I can't even remember the last one. I should have marked it down on my calendar last year. Be like, this was the last time we saw a stubby nozzle. But
Oh my god. I know where
I
this
know
is
you're
going.
marking it on your calendar this year, especially with the 2026 spaceflight calendars at shop.nasaspaceflight.com.
Hey.
Max knew instantly where I was going with that as soon as I started to say it, didn't you?
Oh yeah. You are so easy to read now, Sawyer.
What can I say? My reading levels grades K through 5 apparently. Anyway, quotes from the intro are on there as well, but the 2026 general spaceflight calendar has everything going on in spaceflight. Here at the Cape in particular, we see a lot with Falcon, with Atlas there. We also have ESAR from Norway. We've got amazing shots in there from all the different places that we've been to. And the most important thing is, it is not a pre-order anymore. They are now shipping. So now that it is 2026, you will get your 2026 calendar in 2026. And if you prefer Starbase stuff, we have one entirely dedicated to Starbase, including historic Starbase dates on it. That's all at shop.nasaspaceflight.com. And one thing I didn't notice on those historic dates of any kind was stubby nozzles. Just saying, D.
That's okay. I won't get mad about it.
Oh boy. 8.5 minutes to go now until launch. Let me really quickly also thank Apocalypse Cow gifting 5 Red Team memberships. Thank you, Danger Moo. And Hop Hayes with the $10 super saying, what are the chances of catching a Falcon Heavy launch in Florida and driving on I-10 to Texas and catch a V3 test flight in the same week/month this year? Would be a dream. They are from Indianapolis. It sounds like from an NSF planning perspective, that would be a nightmare.
It
But
could be,
not
but also
impossible.
not impossible. No. The trick is we don't really know when these Falcon 9 boosters are going to be hitting the road. Like we don't have cameras over at Hawthorne 24/7, so we can't really see when transport begins.
No, they mean seeing a
Um,
Falcon Heavy launch and then drive from Florida from the Falcon Heavy launch over to Starbase to see a V3 test flight in the same week or month.
yeah, that is possible, but scheduling, as we know in spaceflight, is never routine or linear or I guess favorable, as we have learned before.
Well, it's not like they would launch New Glenn and Starship in the same week or anything. You'd have to do that exact drive from the
Or that
Cape
that
over to
same day
Starbase.
either, you know?
Yeah, no, that totally wasn't an issue last year. Oh,
Or
wait.
or catch a booster for the first time and then literally launch an expendable Falcon Heavy the very next day. They would never do that. Surely not. No.
No, never
That'd be
happens.
unreasonable.
That would not be chill of them. So, yeah, it's very possible it has happened, although in the reverse direction. It has been Starship, then Falcon Heavy. So we'll see. Speaking of chill, right now we are at under 7 minutes to go until launch, and those engines are starting to chill down. Those 9 Merlin 1D engines starting to run some of that cool propellant through them, so they are not thermally shocked when you have very chilled liquid oxygen running through them, and all of a sudden you light fire to it. You don't want things to crack or explode. So it's basically thermally conditioning everything. And speaking of thermally conditioning, D, one final check with the weather out with you before we let you get your cameras ready to go.
You know, the weather has really cleared up here. The clouds are out of the way. We're seeing stars once again. It's cooled off a little bit, so which is kind of nice. And you know, things are looking really, really good for this launch.
They are looking really good indeed. D, from the public viewing area, you can see on the left, we will catch you after the launch. And on the right side, you can see the view from Max Evans over at the press site. Max, everything looking good from where you could see, right?
It is looking great. We have a now full moon over our heads. It is looking lovely. There is hardly a cloud in the sky anymore, which is a pleasant change of scenery compared to how things were just a few hours ago. Also got a bit chilly here, which is kind of alarming, but we are going to go with it. But as things are looking now, they are looking great. So thank you very much, everybody, and we will see you on the other side.
Looking forward to it. And now we are coming up on 5 minutes and 20 seconds to go. In case you're just joining, you are looking at the Falcon 9 currently at launch at Space Launch Complex 40 at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida for the first Starlink launch of 2026 and the second launch for SpaceX so far this year. On board are 29 Starlink V2 mini satellites. And on your screen, that frosty booster there, as we hit under 5 minutes to go until launch, is a new booster making its first flight. That is B1101-1. So it is into the 1100 series now on these boosters. And while it may be a new year and a new booster, this part of the countdown is going to sound very familiar if you have seen Falcon 9 launch before. Coming up now will be the retraction of the strongback. There is a metallic structure that is up against Falcon 9 and kind of clamp that goes underneath those fairing halves. That's that round part at the top that protects the 29 Starlink V2 mini satellites inside. Those clamps will open up, and then the strongback will retract approximately 1.8 degrees away. In doing so,
has started.
and there is exactly that call. And as that happens, it will move 1.8 degrees away so that it is farther away from the rocket when the engines ignite. And of course, once the ignition does happen, it will throw all the way back closer to a 40-degree angle. Under 4 minutes to go at this point. We should be coming up on the wrapping up of propellant loads very shortly here. Of course, the rocket loaded with RP1, rocket propellant 1, and LOX, liquid oxygen. So it's kerosene and oxygen. And you can see there the frost around it. It has been a little bit rainy in the area, but that has cleared up. That also caused the delay of this by about an hour and a half from the original opening of the window. But With Falcon 9 fully fueled, they are committed to a T0 3 minutes and 17 seconds from now. Once this launches, this one will be heading on a southeasterly trajectory. So if you are anywhere along the southeastern parts of Florida, even kind of on Florida's west coast, all the way down towards West Palm Beach, Fort Lauderdale, Miami, go ahead and head outside and take a look. If you have clear skies, you might see it. And if you do see it, take a photo or video and send it to us on our socials. We're on Facebook, Instagram, X, Threads, TikTok, Blue Sky, all of them. 2.5 minutes to go. We should be coming up on a call out now of the liquid oxygen load wrapping up here on Falcon 9. Right on time. We basically have a fully fueled Falcon 9 at this point. You can see all of that frost around it completely normal because they are super chilled propellants on the inside and the warm, humid Florida air on the outside, kind of enveloping it in that sort of cape here at Cape Canaveral. Coming up in about 2 minutes to go now. About 30 seconds after that, they will start closing out all of the gas lines around it, so purging them of any remaining gases inside. The last thing you want is a big giant ball of flammable things around a rocket as it flies by, so preparing everything at the pad and the ground systems, getting them ready to go. 2 minutes to go. Once we hit 1 minute, that is when Falcon 9 will enter startup, when the onboard computers take control of the count. That will be followed about 15 seconds later, if all is going well, by the go for launch from the launch director. And then at about the T-minus 7 second mark, the Rainbirds will activate. That is a water deluge system at the base of Falcon 9. At T-minus 3 seconds, there's a green flash
Fuel activated complete.
Of a product called TTAB, triethyl aluminum triethylborane. That's the stuff they use to ignite the engines. And 3 seconds after that, we should see liftoff. And we now have a fully fueled, ready to go Falcon 9. We should be getting that call for gas closeout shortly.
Gas launch closeout.
There it is, and you can see all the frostiness around it. Coming up now again on that 1 minute mark. Our timer and our video is ahead of the SpaceX feed, so the callouts might be slightly delayed. That is totally expected. So now at this point, we are officially at 1 minute. Falcon 9 entering startup, and the tanks pressurizing to flight levels on board Falcon 9. And we'll hear the confirmation from SpaceX as well.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
There we go. And the next call we should be getting, hopefully, is the launch director giving the go for launch. We should hear that in a couple of seconds. Let's listen in.
Launch director, go for launch.
That's what we want to hear. Under 30 seconds to go. I will stop talking and let you listen to the launch audio once it does happen. 20 seconds here. As pointed out earlier, you will see, hopefully, the Rainbirds activate at the base. That green flash of the T-Tab, igniting those engines, and launch the first one of 2026 from the Space Coast. 10 seconds. Should be seeing the deluge. And ignition. And liftoff of Falcon 9, a brand new booster to start off a brand new year on the Space Coast. Beautiful views and beautiful sounds as Falcon 9 roars to life, giving the Space Coast its first engine sounds of the year. 90 seconds into flight, already passed through max Q, maximum aerodynamic forces that push against Falcon 9 on launch. Already faster than the speed of sound. And you can see there the side-on view as it heads towards the south. Minute 45 seconds into flight. Now you'll start to see that plume expand as it gets into the thinner parts of the atmosphere. There is less pressure against that kind of plume, so it will start to expand outward more. And then as it gets close to MECO, we will start to see it change color into more of a blue. And speaking of, we're about 25 seconds away from 3 items happening in quick succession, starting with MECO, main engine cutoff, when those 9 Merlin 1D engines shut down, followed by separation of the first and second stage, and that will be followed after that by SES-1, second engine start 1, the Merlin vacuum engine ignites. And there's that bluish color, absolutely gorgeous, lit up by the full moon tonight. And there is MECO, main engine cutoff. Next will be that stage separation. B1101 with its first successful launch. And there is ignition of the Merlin vacuum engine, stage 2 on its way. Gorgeous. And now the first stage will make its way down for a landing on a drone ship. Just read the instructions, located about 500 kilometers downrange. And gorgeous colors of that tonight. And B1101, hopefully to make its first landing. The second stages are not reusable, so it is a brand new one. And you can kind of see the fairing deploy in that plume there, that little gap in the break there. That was the fairings deploy. Those are the 2 items that are at the top of the rocket that protect. There you go. You can actually see them in that view now. That protect the payloads on their way uphill. As you get to the thinner parts of the atmosphere, they're no longer needed. So those separate away, and those will also be recovered and used again. And downrange for that one, we have Bob that will scoop them up out of the water and bring them back to Port Canaveral. And at this point, you can really see that plume expansion. We like to call this a moon jellyfish, a moon jelly, because it is a full moon tonight rather than the sun right at the edge of the horizon lighting it up. That is indeed the wolf moon lighting that plume as it gets higher, seeing the expansion. And you can see it kind of starts to look a little bit like the top of a jellyfish with that sort of wide, rounded structure. So that is why we call it a jellyfish. 4 minutes into flight. At this point, stage 1 will be nearing its apogee, or the highest point in its trajectory. Once it reaches that, it will start speeding up again on its way down for that landing on the drone ship. Absolutely beautiful. This is what we like to see. Falcon 9 coming back with a vengeance tonight in beauty. Meanwhile, everything looks good so far with stage 2, as you continue to see it being tracked by our team at the Cape. Max Evans, D-Wise on the manual tracks tonight. Absolutely stunning views. Coming up now on 5 minutes to go into flight. The next major event, there we go, we have 2 different tracks of it still. The next major event that we will see will be the entry burn. This is the first of 2 burns needed to bring the vehicle back to land on the drone ship. This one starts with a single engine, and it then goes to add 3 total engines before going back down to 1 engine again. It's called a 1-3-1. So what will happen is it will basically create a blanket of fire around itself. That's why we like to say fighting fire with fire. So it will fly through its own plume. As a result, it will kind of protect the vehicle from that denser part of the atmosphere and the re-entry forces. And then once it goes through that, there will be one more burn, and that, of course, will be the landing burn, which is a single-engine burn that will hopefully see it safely on the deck of Just Read the Instructions. Amazingly, still continuing to track stage 2 and still being able to see that plume expansion up there. Of course, the Merlin vacuum engine, that dot right in the middle. Beautiful. Helps having such a clear night and a full moon. Makes it a little tougher for meteor watching, but great for rocket watching. Coming up now on that entry burn. Keep an eye on the left side of your screen. And there it is. Actually, we have a view of it from the ground. That is the entry burn, fighting fire with fire. You can see it kind of cut back down to 1 engine and then shut off. That looked pretty good from what I could tell. There's the SpaceX view. There's the 3 engines. And that kind of horizontal view. And then it cuts back down to a single engine. And then it will shut down after that. That was a view, by the way, from Max Evans
One entry
on
burn
the ground,
shutdown.
able to catch the actual entry burn. Now you
Stage
can see
2
that plasma.
FPS is saved.
Flight termination system safety. You can see that plasma now in those grid fins as they get ready to actually do their job here. They are most used in the thicker parts of the atmosphere to help steer Falcon 9 towards the deck of the drone ship. 7 minutes into flight plus, everything looks good. So as mentioned, there is a single engine that will burn for this landing burn. That will see it hopefully punch through the clouds. It will be slightly off center from the deck of the drone ship, and then it will center itself and land hopefully right on top of the deck. You can see that kind of glow there in the left portion of that grid fin.
Stage
That
1
is actually the
transonic.
drone ship. Stage 1 now slower than the speed of sound. Meanwhile, Stage 2 continuing to do its job at 20,000 kilometers an hour. Stage 1 down to about 1,006 kilometers to go.
Closing in rapidly.
Should be coming up on that landing burn any second now. And those landing legs will deploy a little later than some people find comfortable, but it's right before
One landing
touchdown.
burn.
So there it is. There's the landing burn startup. You'll see
Two
those grid
terminal
fins
guidance.
doing their job. Next up should be that landing leg deploy. There's the drone ship. There's the view from on board.
Stage 1 landing leg deploy.
And touchdown.
1 landing confirmed.
Let's go.
Welcome to the fleet. Booster 1101, now -2. And stage 2 here should be shutting down momentarily. Already at 26,000 or 27,000 kilometers an hour. There is that MVAC shutdown. We're listening for 3 important words. Hopefully.
Nominal orbit insertion.
Those are the 3 words. That means Falcon 9 delivered Stage 2 exactly where it needs to be, and Stage 2 delivering those Starlink satellites exactly where it needs to be. There is still another burn that happens about 50 minutes after the launch, and that is called SES-2. But that one's only a couple of seconds at most, and SpaceX does not broadcast those. So hopefully that will deploy a little bit from now. Max, how was that view for you?
Well, oh my gosh, that's not even close to being to being centered in frame. Good Lord, I'm sorry, everybody. It got really cold here, very, very close to launch, and I didn't even catch it, and the camera fogged up. So I do apologize if that view was suboptimal compared to what we normally have here. But it has suddenly gotten really cold. It's been very, very bizarre. But very nice to see the first launch of the year and the first in about 2.5 weeks here from the Eastern Range, which was a pleasant sight to see. Mostly clear skies and probably a wicked vapor cone passing through the cloud layer there as well, higher up there. So it was a visual feast, I think, on many fronts. It was very, very pretty. And also we had the entry burn scene here from the press site as well, which I was able to pick up on my tracking camera. So all in all, it was a good night.
It really was. And we still got great views from you. We also had spectacular views too from DWise, who was further downrange to get those side-on views. And the fact that our team, including Gage, who was doing some of the tracking with our robotic cameras, were able to capture that moon jellyfish tonight. Were you able to see that with your eyes too?
I tried, but when you are tracking the upper stage MVAC engine, it is literally a dot in the sky, similar to what you would see with a dim star. And because of the focal length that you're at, in this case, I'm at about 1,000 mil equivalent. If you take your eye off it for more than like literally half a second or a second, you risk losing it out of frame. And once it's out of frame, good luck having it reacquired because it is so hard to pick up. So I tried and I try to here and there because it is a lot more visible with your naked eye than it is on most cameras, certainly video cameras. But I certainly try. But tonight was very, very, very vivid.
Absolutely beautiful. And again, the sound carried on this one beautifully, waking up the Space Coast for the first time of the year, also marking the first drone ship landing of 2026, and it just so happened to be from the East Coast.
Best Coast.
Yes, I didn't say it this time, but you know who did say it? As we get ready to pull replays, by the way, we're working on getting some of those views. I know DY's usually comes in with a slow-mo replay, so stick around. Don't head out just yet. There's some more amazing views coming. Bideford saying with a $30 super chat, beautiful, finally launch from the best coast. I knew I loved you, Bideford.
Hey. Thanks, Bideford.
Appreciate it. Snot Garden gifting 5 Red Team memberships. Thank you very much for that. And I realized Shazbert's message didn't get to read that one. For the Falcon 9 boosters, do you think they take I-10 all the way? Or do you think they take the I-12 bypass north of New Orleans on the north shore of Lake Pontchartrain?
I don't know, honestly. I don't know enough about the exact route that they take. I just know that I-10 is the basis of their route. There are some obstacles that they do have to dodge, like overpasses, cough, cough, and other roads that if they have a too much of a curve to it, Falcon 9 cannot go down because it's so long. But I don't know the exact route that it takes, so I can't really answer that one fully, unfortunately.
I have passed by one once when I used to live up in the panhandle of Florida. It is bizarre. I had to do a double take. I'm like, no, that can't be. And then I looked at the shape and I'm like, no, that's a Falcon. It's a weird sight. I'll say that. What wasn't a weird sight, though, was from Ninja Guy Dan, who said, I was just able to see the moon jelly from my cruise ship. Sharing it on socials now. Not a great pick, unfortunately. Hey,
Excellent.
I've seen very
Tag
few
us.
shots of a second stage from a cruise ship, so I'm excited to see that. That's spectacular. And of course, we have Das's favorite view on screen, an empty launch pad. That was amazing track tonight, folks. I mean, you never know that it's been, 2 weeks since we tracked the launch?
Yeah, I know. Literally, it's been about 2.5 weeks since the last launch here from the eastern range of Florida. I think December 17th was the last one that we had for a year. So we had an unusually long break here. But yeah, very, very pleasant change in views, and certainly compared to what we had earlier in the evening with a bunch of clouds and a bunch of rain. So there is a bunch of moisture in the air still currently, and our cameras are feeling it. Everything is currently soaked in dew, unfortunately. But that's just how it goes here sometimes on the east coast of central Florida. But Falcon 9 got off the ground tonight, so it was a good night.
Yeah, we were joking earlier that spaceflight photographers keep hand warmer companies in business during the off season too. You get
Yes.
you get the conditions just right. Your lens want to fog up. The trick is to attach a hand warmer to them, and especially those longer duration ones for the remote cameras. And we have replays coming in now. This one is from Fleet Cam. This is the original Fleet Cam located atop Rusty's at the port in Port Canaveral. Right in front of that giant glowing light is also where the drone ship will return with B1101 in a couple of days for it to then be removed from the drone ship, lowered, sent back over to Hangar X, and prepared for its next flight. Gorgeous. Again, you could see some of that humidity in the dew on the lens, but it just shows how bright Falcon 9 is. And I don't know, does the new booster burn a little cleaner? Seemed whiter.
I mean, the engines certainly are happier than other boosters in the fleet because they are so new. They're not brand new and unfired because, of course, they have a whole test campaign with the Merlins themselves, and then also firing the first stage booster as it is in one of the stands at McGregor in Central Texas as well. So they're not unfired engines, but they have certainly seen far less use than certainly other Merlins in service currently.
That is true. And there you can see from Fleet 2, and a lot of it also has to do with atmospheric conditions, things
Yep.
like that. There's so many things, excuse me, that go into a rocket. Thanks, Max.
I'm sorry. That just sounded great. It was amazing.
You talk then.
Well, oh my gosh, yeah, even there. So that's what I was saying as well. See that like ring of light around the edges of the camera there? That looks like moisture built up on the lens. Now that could be from the rain, or that could be from this blast of cold air that just came through the press site and soaked everything. It's getting us now, and I do have to say it is quite chilly today, unfortunately. But views are still great. And here, one more here from another robot camera station over here at the hut. Here you go. There must be some moisture on the lens. Normally, it looks a lot cleaner than that. But I guess it is a very, very wet night here. But an artificial sunrise coming up over the tree line there as it departs Slick 40 heading southeast tonight on tonight's mission. So a beautiful sight to see.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. It's hard to tell sometimes if it's the new booster, if it's the conditions. What I was trying to say before my voice decided I shouldn't talk anymore was that I totally forgot now. Great. Now my brain is whatever it was I was going to say. Apparently, it's not worth saying. Oh, how all of the launches are different each time. The conditions are so different that sure, it's like, oh, it's another launch. They are not all the same. All of them have a slight quirk to it, a slightly different look to it, a slightly different sound to it. It really depends on the conditions in terms of humidity, in terms of cloud layer, in terms of trajectory. There's so many differences that you would never believe. So yeah, when it's like, oh, you're going to another launch, it's like, well, yeah. Aren't they all the same? No, they're not. That's when people tell me I should pick a different hobby, one that doesn't delay as often as launches do. It's like, but they're not, but they're worth it. Love you, Mom and Dad. I'm sticking with it.
Uh-oh.
I love the punch through the clouds there. Again, looked extra bright tonight. Like we were talking about the conditions, just really emphasizes that brand new booster and the brightness with it.
What camera was this one? Was this D's wide camera?
No, D's wide had the boats in it. That was KSC 04 apparently.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah, or not the boats, the cars in it. D's had this one.
This one. Yep.
I love that you can see the actual people watching. This is a public viewing area.
And there are boats in the view too. There are several sailboats.
But yes, anyone can pull off the side of the road in this area and watch a launch anytime. So totally doable. Also, Lords of Random calling this view D-wide. Instead of D-wise, D-wide.
Wow.
I didn't come up with that one, but Lords of Random pun token award. Also, you can tell which one is D. There's people with their cell phones, and then there's the professional tracking camera. Which, by the way, if you are going out for a launch and it's your first time, put the phones down. I know it sounds cliche, but it's a memory, yes. But that's why we have our professional cameras out there getting all the different shots of the launch. If you want to set it up behind you and just have it record your reaction without you touching it, sure. But for the first launch, experience it. Be a part of it. Seeing it for yourself is not going to compare to watching it back on a tiny phone screen.
Amen to that. I tell everyone the exact same thing.
It was told to me, STS-130, by one of the closeout crew. That was their thing. They're like, there are people out there that get paid to take better photos than you ever will.
Harsh, but may be true.
Well, and again, this was 2010, and I was a teenager. Now I'm the one taking those photos, but that's a whole nother story. And this is Max. I know you don't like the fog on the lens, but it looks so cool.
And there's a LUT on this, Jay Keegan. There's a LUT on this.
But listen to the sound while we remove the LUT. KMR himself in chat saying, I hear the VAB squeal. It's a little tricky because I've heard better squeals, but that one was still pretty good. I mean, it's the best VAB squeal of 2026. I'll say that.
Best one of this year.
Yep.
Highlight of the year, this one is so far.
True. Best launch from Florida. Hop Haze, by the way, as we continue to watch your track, and we have a couple more, asking, might be a stupid question, but why did we see the satellite deployment of SpainSat right away and wait how long for Starlink from Space Coast? By the way, they're from Indy. A lot of it has to do with SpaceX doesn't want to keep their broadcast live for that long, for being perfectly honest. But also the fact that it's 50 minutes after. If it's, 15 to 30 minutes after, that's one thing. This is usually 50 minutes after. So at that point, they just don't bother showing it. Plus, it almost feels like it's become quote unquote too routine for them. I don't know if that's fair to say. This is a robotically tracked camera, by the way, of the launch. I believe it was Gage tracking this one, if I'm remembering correctly. It is, yes. This is one of our Cape cams. Again, another way to get that cool side-on view. This one located right along the water there, along the Atlantic. And of course, we'll see more of Dee's views in the slow motion coming up momentarily. Absolutely beautiful. Again, that color as it gets to the thinner parts of the atmosphere, once it starts turning that bluish purple, is unreal. It's like, oh yeah, it's it's orange. It's orange and red, and then all of a sudden it's just, how about some blue? How about a lot of blue?
And something that you missed a little bit in just seeing that move to blue, it's not so much that the blue appears as the orange fades away and then suddenly the dimmer blue sort of becomes visible.
Yes.
It's because it when you're controlling the cameras, you're sort of upping the exposure to bring out the blue as the orange fades away.
Yeah, and even if you see it with your naked eye, like I tend to see them down here where I live in the Palm Beach County area, you can really see all of a sudden it's like a transition, like someone start put a blue filter over it slowly, like they're wiping, like wax on, wax off with a blue filter. And this was Max, I believe, capturing the entry burn as well. We were talking
Indeed.
earlier about you may not see the landing burn, but you can definitely see entry.
And then it's certainly the case here from the press site if the weather conditions allow for it. If there's any clouds downrange, they obviously would block the view. But more often than not, at this time of night, the weather's a lot more stable. And if the skies are clear, we have a great view over towards the entry burn. But that is also very, very close to the horizon. And at that point, the actual landing burn is too far below the horizon for us to see it. So that is why we can't see it here, because of the curvature of the Earth, that pesky thing. But yes, tonight we had a great view of the entry burn, and it was marvelous.
Beautiful. It's always a pleasure to see it. Again, those southeasterly launches make it easier for us to see it as well, given that it's traveling towards our direction rather than away, at least especially for me who lives southeast. That was absolutely beautiful. Oh, feels good to get the rust off and get back into a late night Starlink, because they do be hitting different, especially when you're with the amazing NSF team here, including Max Evans out in the field. Max, thanks for joining.
Of course, pleasure as always, everyone, and thank you very much for coming to hang out with us on this very now early Sunday morning now. So, always happy to be here, even though it is now cold. But the weather improved, and we were happy to see Falcon 9 off the ground tonight.
And you just saw popping into frame there momentarily D Wise out in the field. Thank you, D. We happened to catch on the D wide.
Yes, it has been an absolute pleasure to be out here, and it was actually really nice to sort of spend it with the crowd. I met some people out here for their very first launch from actually quite a long distance. So it's been a pleasure, and I'll see y'all next time.
And watch D disappear below the ticker. There we go. Jay Keegan is the one pushing the buttons and pulling the levers for today's stream. I am Sawyer Rosenstein. I have been your host for today's broadcast. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. Stick around for the first DY Slow-Mo of the year, and we will see you back later this week for another Falcon 9 launch.
And here we go.
There's the W. Here's ignition.
Roger roll, Atlantic. Doubling up.
Did you just do a Kerbal?
Back to the moon and beyond.
Put that in the big bag, Jingle.
Back at home, we all have a lot of work to do, but from here, that sure looks like a perfect flow.
Propulsion continues to be normal.
We did have an observation. 343 unfolds to go.
It's orange.
Water towers can fly!
Bingo! Right in the center.
Where's Jacqueline? There it is! That was surreal.
That's not what we want to see.
No! Oh my god.
Yikes, you bet. We don't need any more of these.